This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 68 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast, where we interview leading entrepreneurs about their journey of how they turned ideas and dreams into reality. Along the way, they'll share their tips and ideas of how you can turn your ideas and dreams into reality too. Today on the podcast, we're talking about community. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we dive in, I want to encourage you, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, head on over there and do two things. First off, click that subscribe button. And second, give us a rating and review. It helps us get the word out about the Jumblethink Podcast. If you like listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, we've made it easy. Swing on over to jumblethink.com/iTunes. And for Spotify, jumblethink.com/Spotify. When you do that, it will take you right to the app, right to the page where you can click subscribe and become part of the Jumblethink family. Now let's jump into today's episode. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have an incredible episode lined up for you today, talking all about community, and I'm going to share some stories and exciting things going on here at Jumblethink and why community is so significant to us. Before we get going, I want to take a moment and thank today's sponsor, Opportunity in China. Now, have you been looking for a way to change your career or social prospects? Do you see the world around you changing and haven't quite figured out what path to take? Well, you're not alone in seeking opportunity. Visit opportunityinchina.com for access to scholarships to attend universities in China. Or if you have a bachelor's degree already, opportunityinchina.com provides access to jobs in the educational sector all across China. Working in China is not only often well paid, but it will place you among 1/5 of the world's population. And this will boost your social network, bring you more deeply into the story of globalization, and open doors you never knew existed. It's time for you to seize your opportunity. Visit their website at opportunityinchina.com. By the way, they have a really great podcast about living and working overseas. You can learn more about that by visiting your favorite place to listen to podcasts, including YouTube, and search for Opportunity in China. Today's episode is all about community, which is so important to me, and I think it's going to be really important to you as a dreamer and idea maker. It is foundational for making ideas and dreams a reality. And even for a topical episode, today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm going to share some stories and some exciting things happening with the Jumblethink Podcast and how that all ties back into community. So last week, I headed off to Austin to be a part of an event called the New Media Summit, and I was one of 40 icons of influence, which is basically some podcasters that have created amazing shows that are impacting their communities. And so I headed off to Austin with not a clear picture of what to expect or what I was going to encounter. And Steve and Kelly and their teams put on an absolutely incredible event. It was a summit where we got to share about podcasting, and a whole slew of people, 150 now close friends, are able to take some time and share about what they're doing, whether it's the book they've written, the message that they have to share, or the service that they're offering and how they're changing the world around them. It was absolutely incredible to be around so many people who really value the dreams and destinies that they have and the ideas that they have to share. Like I said, I went into the event not expecting all that much, just to go in and meet a lot of incredible people and have a lot of fun. But Steve Olsher, who puts on the event, did something that was really unique, and he created an environment that bred community, in which people came in and they felt like they were free to be themselves, that they fit in, and that there was a home and place for them. If you've ever been to a conference or event, you know how difficult it is to create that kind of environment, especially in one which you're going to learn, you're going to experience and encounter a place to help you grow. So Steve really was intentional about it. He was intentional about the format and how he put it together. And it created this magical thing in which people connected, had deep conversations. They shared their dreams and ideas. They shared the things that they're working on and had the freedom to really just be themselves, be who they are in their own skin, to not put on a front or a show, but just to come as they were and embrace community. In the weeks to come, as a side note, we're going to have so many people from that event, both people who are attending and icons of influence on the podcast, to share their stories, because they are inspirational stories of dream makers and idea chasers really changing the world. I think of past guests who I even got to meet there for the first time. Doug Sandler for the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Doug's going to be back on for our B-Side podcast, and it was just really great to meet him face to face, especially having him on the podcast and sharing what they're doing. And I made lots of new friends, people I had never heard of, and I'm excited to see what comes from that, and the stories that are created, the new adventures that we all go on, and how that changes our course for the future. And it's this sense of community and vulnerability that really fosters these relationships that then go on to change the world and impact people. And because of that event and some new people that are joining the Jumblethink community, we had a massive milestone. So yesterday, I opened up Facebook, and there is a post that has me tagged in it. I always like to check those out and see what they are, and at least comment on them. But our good friend Jeremy Ryan Slate, who's been on the podcast and also helps us connect up with amazing entrepreneurs, he had written a post, and I was like, okay, I'll go check it out. He tagged me in it, pull it up, and here the Jumblethink podcast was ranked number 1 in the business listings on iTunes, and also in the top 15 for like all podcasts, which is just insane. I am not quite sure how that all happened, but what an honor to have a community that loves the podcast, have a family of other podcasters that's supporting us, and the New Media Summit just giving that boost of supporting what we're doing and getting the word out. This is what community is all about. You see, easy as it is to say, hey, we're number 1, or whatever you want to say about our ranking on iTunes, it wasn't just us that made that possible. It wasn't just the podcast. That was the medium in which we got the message out, but it's all these past guests that we've had. It's the events that we've been a part of. It's our friends and family and new friends and people that just believe this message that we're sharing, being a part of our community and getting the word out about the Jumblethink podcast. And it's such an honor to get that ranking, because what it communicates to me is that our community is really supporting what's going on and getting the word out there. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for believing in us. I am a no-name person. I am just another podcaster in a sea of podcasters. And yet that ability to just see validation from people who believe in what's going on and want to support it, that means the world to me. So thank you so much for supporting the Jumblethink podcast and being part of our community and being a part of sharing this message that's truly going to change the world. And I just want to remind you, if you're new to the podcast, what is this message? Well, the message is very simple. We believe everyone was created for purpose. And our job at the Jumblethink podcast is help people figure out who they are, their identity, and help them give themselves a roadmap, a strategy to take those dreams and ideas that they have, to step into who and what they're created to do and do it, to simply live the life they were created to live and impact the world around them. For some people, that's a small impact that has ripples across all of culture and society. For others, it's a global reach that their message, their story, their services, what they're doing is having a direct impact into millions of people's lives. It's a simple message, but it's a message we need today in our society, that you are special and you are needed. You are significant. And that's what we believe. And that's what the Jumble Think podcast is all about. Yes, we talk about entrepreneurs. Yes, we talk about the people who've turned their dreams and ideas in reality. But beyond that, it's about helping you remember who you were created to be and encouraging you to take that journey to move that forward. So, community. Let's get back to the topic at hand, community. Okay, let's define it. A group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. It can also mean a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. I, in the last couple years, have heard over and over and over again the words community and tribe come up. So let's define tribe while we're at it. A social division in a traditional society consisting of families or communities linked by social, economic, religious, or blood ties with a common culture or dialect, typically having a recognized leader. So we've defined the words and we've talked a little bit about community impact in my life recently. I don't like to get too ranty, but today we're going to go on a little bit of a rant about community and society and how we've really broken it. You know, we look at community today, and first thing that comes to mind is social networking and various social channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Pick your favorite social channel, and this is probably the hub of your community. But I want to ask you this question. How has social community in a virtual world impact your life today? Do you feel like you're connected to people? Do you feel like you're truly engaging? Or are you just reading the latest gossip, watching funny cat memes, or just connecting at a very superficial level? I think the other question that we really need to answer is, how are we consuming social media in our lives as individuals? You see, when we look at social media channels, what we start to do is consume people as data points. We consume celebrations, life stages, tragedies and victories, successes and failures. We consume these as data points in categorizing people, just like we would information on anything else that we're interested in. We devour this content, and people become no longer tangible items, but information that we're storing. I've said it time and time again, probably say it a million more times in future podcasts. We are living in a society of false intimacy without responsibility. When we begin to consume people as data, we no longer see them in an intimate setting where we have responsibility for our actions and interactions for them. It removes the barrier of what's socially acceptable, which sometimes that's good, but also what is healthy or right or beneficial to each other. This devours community and breaks it up so that we have this false community that does not build wealthy relationships. And when I say wealthy relationships, what I mean is relationships of value, relationships of significance. You go back 50, 60 years and you had tight-knit communities that depended on each other. I was just talking to my dad, and he was telling me the story of my grandfather being born. And while he's in the hospital being born, this is my grandfather's, so great-grandparents' house, the house, one of the houses in the family burns down, and it was their hub for everything. And so now this family is out of a place to live and survive. And so the community rallied around and rebuilt the house, not for money, not for a job, but they just came in and said, we're going to come together because this family's in need and rebuild their house. This was the sense of community that we had, where the pillars of community, the pillars of the local unit thrived, and people were responsible for each other. They took care of each other. They knew the wounds and hurts, and they were there for each other. Sometimes it was bad, sometimes it was good, but they were there together. And in our society, we're becoming more detached from each other. We're becoming less responsible for each other. We're not carrying the burdens of each other. And in a moment, I'm going to go deeper into why that matters into the world of dreaming and ideas. But let's talk about even the amount of friendships we have. We have more and more friends and connections through social channels, through work, through our children's schools, whatever it is. We're adding more and more people to our network, and we're getting less and less intimate with each other in the place of being there for each other and actually knowing and seeing each other. Have you ever felt like, yeah, I know so many people. I see so many people, and yet I don't feel like I know anyone. Or even worse, I don't feel like anyone sees me or understands me or wants me. Well, what's happening is that you are missing authentic community that sees you, that calls out the best in you, and helps you see the things you can't see to call you into the destiny that you have, your created purpose. There is this theory called Dunbar's number. You can find it in Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Points. It's in tons of other great books. You can just search it on Google, look it up on Wikipedia. And it talks about when organizations and individuals thrive, what they find, whether it's at a tribal level, whether it's at a local community, a church, that magic number is like 150 people. There's some wiggle room in there. I've heard a little bit less, I've heard a little bit more, but it's this magical number where community thrives and people flourish. In our social communities, in our work environments, with our social channels, in the real world, we're having so many touch points with different people. And yet we're not going deep with them. We're not finding our true tribe, our true community where we belong or fit in. So let's go a little bit deeper. How does that impact the world of dreamers, of makers, of innovators and influencers? How does that change our culture and hold us back from realizing our created purpose and stepping into our dreams and destiny? I simply believe that for a dreamer to flourish, for a person to truly become all that they can be, there are a couple little ingredients that go a long way to making that happen. The first one, which I've talked about a lot, is identity. Understanding who you were created to be, who you are, what you believe in, understanding your core is the real foundation for being a dreamer. Beyond that, we start to look at things like what's your why and what's your what. What are you passionate about? Why are you passionate about it? Why is this burned into your soul to make these things accomplished? Simon Sinek wrote the book Start With Why. Steve Ulcher, which I talked about earlier, the New Media Summit, he wrote a book called What's Your What? And these books are really great because they get into that next part, which is the concept behind your dream and idea. What is that concept? Why are you doing it? And beyond that, you need a lot of things to nurture the dream and idea. There are, like I said, many things that looks like, but today I want to talk about what I think is one of the most critical, which is community, authentic community, which becomes part of your story. Community helps dreamers and ideas in multiple ways. I'm only going to share a few here, and your imagination can go wild on this. I'm sure that you can think creatively on how community can help you. You don't need me telling you, but I'm going to give you a few of the ways that I think community can help you and why it's significant for you. The first one is that they can see you. And that goes back to the identity level. They see you. They call out the possibilities. They encourage you. They see things in you that you don't even see. The second thing is that they hold you accountable. Once you've chosen to chase that dream and idea, they help hold you to the course. They keep on checking in. How you doing? What's going on? What can we do to help? What do you need to be doing differently? Where are you failing? They hold you accountable in the journey. They also share wisdom and mentor. Some people are going to be in that relationship. Part of that culture of community is that some of them will mentor you along the way. They'll share that wisdom. They'll coach you along the path. They'll help you along the way. They'll also encourage you and be your cheerleader. We all need a cheerleader to help encourage us when we're going. When we get into the place where we're chasing dreams and ideas, and when we get buried into the things that weigh us down, that encouragement goes a long way to say, keep on going. You're going to get there. It's going to be okay. What you're doing matters. You're significant. I see you. You're impacting my life. All of those things help. Another thing that community really brings is it brings a place of fans, people who are impacted by your message and story, and they become part of your community where you're mentoring and coaching them, where you're pouring into them, where you're drawing the best out of them. You're really becoming full circle, and they become not just fans, but advocates who fight for you, who share that message, who want to be along for the ride, but they also want to help others get on the bus with you. And those are just a couple ways of community. And I think of season 2, episode 59, our friend Cody Warner, who is on the podcast. And I just love how we went into a real deep place and talked about community from the standpoint of when you have a dream and idea and you don't want to inconvenience your community, your friends, your family, the people around you, and you go, I'm starting this really cool thing, but I don't want to, I'll tell them about it, but I don't want to ask for their help. Well, community also helps you. You cannot do your ideas and dreams on your own. You need community. You need your family. You need your city. You need your church or your peer group or whatever it is that you're committed to, whatever you're a part of, that community begins to support you when you can't support yourself. They help sustain you and get you through those rough patches, but they also will get the word out. They'll share your journey, and you really, really need that. So community adds so much value to what you're doing when you chase ideas and dreams. And I know that I'm just skimming very much on the surface here. I'm not going very deep here. And there's a reason for that. In the weeks to come, one of the things that I'm working on is a new manifesto for how we bring authentic community back to our lives. How do we find our tribe? How do we go deep with our tribe? How do we lead a tribe or community? How can we be a part of a community that we belong in, where we feel like we're seen and heard and we have value and that we bring value to others? This is one of the things I'm working on. A couple weeks ago, I launched the Dreamers Manifesto to Micro Experiments. That's part of what we're working on. But community is foundational to the journey of dreamers. Good community helps you even more. I believe that we're in a season where people are starting to question the status quo, the norm, and they're saying, I want something more. I want something deeper. I want to be challenged. I want to be released into my destiny. I want the fullness of life that I know can be there. And community is the keystone for much of that. So in the weeks to come, we're going to go deeper into this topic in our topical episodes, which we're going to one a week starting next week, which is super, super exciting. So next couple of weeks, we're going to be going deeper into community and what this new manifesto for authentic community means in a social, digital, connected world. I'm super excited. I hope you're excited to be on this journey of finding community, creating community, and being in a place of belonging. It will change your life. It will impact you in massive ways, and it will release you into the dreams and destinies you've been created to live. Okay, so a lot on the surface about community. You want to go deeper and you're ready to have that conversation. Here's a couple things you can do right now to process this. One, on the surface level for you, I want to encourage you, take a moment, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever is right for you, to sit down, pull out a blank piece of paper and just write down who is the community around you. Do it at a very micro level. Who's the family members? Who's your friends, the closest people? Then think about creative community, places that you belong. Maybe you serve at your church. Maybe you're a part of PTA. Maybe you're a part of a soccer club, or whatever that looks like for you. Start thinking about the communities you're already engaged in beyond the social communities. Then I want you to also write down and think, who are the people I connect with most in the social spheres? Whether that's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, LinkedIn, who are the people that I regularly engage with? And begin to think, what could I do to go deeper in relationship with these people? What could I do to foster not only the intimacy, this false sense of intimacy, but what can I do to bring true intimacy? And then what's my responsibility to these people I'm interacting with? So go ahead and do that. Write those things down and begin to think how community looks to you in your life right now. Write down also, what do you love about your community right now? Does it encourage you? Does it support you? Does it challenge you? And then write, what isn't working in your community? I just feel beaten up. All we do is complain. Whatever that is for you, write those things down. And then begin to question, is this the way I want community to look for me? Or do I want something more from the community in which I belong? So that's one step you can take in this journey of defining community for yourself. The next thing is as we talk about this in the next couple of weeks, because community is foundational to dreaming, we're going to go deeper. I want you to make sure you're part of the community. So make sure you follow and like us and become a contributor to our social channels, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Let's start having this conversation beyond just the podcast. Let's have it in these channels. Let's ask questions of each other and really go into this deeper with each other and question what we think of community, what we believe about community, and what it should really look like. And finally, we're going to be sending out some emails to our list in the weeks to come, talking more about this manifesto we're creating for a new culture of community, a new manifesto for modern community in a digital world. And we want you to be a part of that, to hear some of our thoughts, hear my thoughts on what community can look like, some challenges we want to release into our community to encourage you to go deeper. And best way to do that, so head on over to jumblethink.com. You can check out, there'll be a little pop-up there to put your email address in for the newsletter. When you do that, you'll also get one of our free guides. We have 3 guides right now, including our most recent, which is the Dreamers Manifesto for Micro Experiments. So join that list and get to see a glimpse into what I'm processing and this new model for community that I think that we're building towards as we challenge how social media works in our life, how we challenge how community is working for us today, and start building communities that we really want to belong and be a part of. And the final way is, about the Jumble Think podcast. We've talked about our new podcast called The B-Side. Starting this week on Friday, we have 2 episodes that aren't going live, but we're recording them. We want you to be a part of that recording. It's very simple to do. Head on over to Facebook, follow us there. Make sure you have the notifications turned on for our Facebook page. We're going live with new guests that we're recording live on Facebook Live. Incredible guests. They're going to be a lot of fun. They're going to bring value to you in your space of chasing your dreams and ideas, hearing their stories, but also you can join the conversation. Ask your questions that you want our guests to answer for you about their journey, what they're creating, and the messages that they're sharing, and also the deeper conversation around community. We have 2 this Friday. They are going to be so much fun. Our first 2 guests on the B-side are Trevor Perry, who I met at New Media Summit. He is in the business sphere. He's also done a lot about slide decks and creating great slides and becoming a better storyteller. It's going to be a lot of fun. And our second guest is an old friend of ours. He's been on this podcast, the Jumble Think podcast. You should go check out that episode. His name's Johnny Cooper. He has a company called Johnny Hates Marketing, which I just love that title. And he's going to be our second guest. Those are both September 21st. The first one's at 10:25 Eastern, and the second one's at 11:50 a.m. Eastern. And then the following week, we have a couple other great friends joining us for these B-side episodes on Facebook Live. Then you'll be able to find those episodes on on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and iHeart and everywhere you like to listen to podcasts. And you're going to also have the video version on YouTube. It's going to be a lot of fun doing these new episodes of the B-Side, so make sure to check those out and start engaging with our guests. We're going to be doing more and more on Facebook Live and Instagram Live, so make sure you're following us there and being part of the conversation with our guests and not just a listener. We want you to contribute. We want your voice to be heard because, like I always say, you are significant, you are important, your message, your voice matters. And if we can help you in a challenge in these episodes to overcome, give you a roadmap, and also encourage you on your journey, hey, that's incredible. That's our heartbeat and what we want to do. So lots that I just shared about community, lots of ways you can start processing communities. We loved connecting with you. We want to connect with you more. But today I want to leave you with this final challenge. Really think what community means to you. Start defining authentic community for yourself. And let's together, because you can't do it alone, let's together begin to shift our cultural thinking of community, what it means to us, what it means to our families, what it means to our friends, and how we can go so much deeper into this world of community and connection and ultimately dreaming and idea making. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. I hope it's encouraged you on chasing your big ideas and dreams. I want to take a moment and thank today's sponsor, Opportunity in China. Here's a word from them so you can learn a little bit more about what they are doing.
At the dawn of the 19th century, forward-thinking people moved to the commercial centers of Europe. Moving into the 20th century, America welcomed millions into the land of freedom and opportunity. It is now the 21st century. Many of the successes and fortunes of our generations will be made in China. To learn how you can seize opportunity in China, follow the Opportunity in China podcast. The Opportunity in China podcast is available anywhere podcasts are streamed, or you can visit our website at opportunityinchina.com.
Well, that does it for today's episode. Next week on the podcast, we have our good friend Sandra Lewis. She is the founder of Worldwide 101. They are redefining what a virtual assistant looks like and how you can staff better with highly qualified, very talented people to take your team and your needs to the next level. It's going to be super fun to have her on, share her story from moving from the corporate world and into entrepreneurship. It is a killer episode. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure to check that out this Monday. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to encourage you. You are created for something special. We simply just believe it's true, and we want you to believe it's true too. We know you have a dream. We know you have an idea. Well, it's time to start moving it forward. Take a step, a small step, a big step. Doesn't matter, but take a step and make it a reality. The world needs you more than ever. Your voice is significant. Your ideas are significant, and your dreams are significant. So get out there, chase those dreams and ideas, and turn them from your imagination and into reality.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.